Okay. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Conservation Commission for the town of Harwich on September 25th, 2019. The meeting is being recorded, and do we have a list for signees, Amy?
There is a sign-in, yep,
Okay.
on the back chair.
Okay. So the first item is for violations for 21 Uncle Vinny's Road.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Steve Postanzer. I am here for the Grangers. I am the one taking responsibility for the violation, which was not meant. It was just an oversight on my part as far as getting the letter in, and a misreading / communication on my part as far as putting the irrigation in. So I talked to Amy. I had Amy come do a site visit. We went through it. Hopefully the letter I sent in recently, emailed in with pictures, will suffice for the oversight of the letter I should have sent in January or February or whenever the 6 months was. I think the letter currently is probably more interesting than it would have been in January or February. I think we've kept up with everything that they've asked for. As far as the removal of the invasive species and of the plantings that they've asked to be planted, and we'll remove the in-ground irrigation system whenever you tell me to.
Okay. Amy?
So I went out to the site after some people had expressed a little interest in it, and met with Steve, and did find out, so the orders of conditions did stipulate we were supposed to know if it was a different contractor other than who was the permitting contractor, so we could vet them. Then we went through the work that had been done, found out that it actually was most of it, if not all of it, and that it was just that a few plants really didn't make it.
Right.
So I took a look at his work, deemed that he's capable of doing the work. So now it really just comes to just getting everything back on track. So I appreciate that you gave us a letter letting us know where it is. That's a big key thing. So the commission had issued fines in the amount of $600, one for the irrigation, and secondly for the not being quite in compliance with the land management plan. As that has been corrected, and they were pretty close to begin with the land management plan, I would recommend rescinding that $300 fine and keeping the other one for the irrigation. We're really trying to crack down on irrigation, and especially in sensitive areas. I understand it's a very exposed place, irrigation sometimes. So I would just recommend that we keep getting these monitor reports as we were supposed to have been getting.
Yep.
And we can chat about, I do see why you would want irrigation there, but the conditions do clearly state not to have it. So we start converting the area to a Cape Cod lawn area.
Sure.
So I can't recommend anything other than what the commission had said in the conditions. So
Understood.
I recommend that it's gotta go.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, no, I have no questions, but I would recommend going with the drip
Yep.
irrigation. Other than that, I have no more questions.
Well, they have that for the
For the
new plants, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
No
Carol?
questions.
No?
Yeah, so what were the land management violations?
It really appeared at first that maybe not as much had been planted as it was, but it was all planted. The problem is we didn't have 100% success rate with the planting, so some had to be redone, which they have done. The other thing was not following through with the reporting. We were supposed to have gotten a report earlier on than we did, so I kind of lumped that into one. And so he has sent a progress report in and replanted plants that needed to be.
All right, well, I thought there was another violation, which was the use of fertilizers or other treatments on the lawn, which was pretty clear was going on. I walked by that property frequently, and earlier in the summer, it was very clear that the lawn was getting treated with something, because you could see the granules in the lawn. It was also bright green, which it wouldn't be unless it was being fed.
Yeah, so I'll reiterate to the owners not to put anything on the lawn. That's all I can do with that.
Well, so I guess, my question is, given that violation, it's not clear to me that we should be rescinding the second fine, just to, make sure the message is
Yeah.
loud and clear about
Yep.
no chemicals. And that's a particularly sensitive area. It's
It
right
is.
on the edge of the salt marsh. There really shouldn't be anything being put on the lawn.
Yep.
I mean,
So-
it's a bigger issue in my view than the irrigation.
Actually, so I lumped them. So the way the citation was written was, it was in violation of special condition number 7 and number 10. And 7 was no irrigation or fertilization within the 100-foot wetland buffer. That was number 7. And number 10 was the monitoring reports and stuff like that. So that's how I lumped it. But if, I don't know if we can
But I'm sorry, neither of those items are the fertilization item.
Yeah, I did.
No,
Number 7,
Is,
So,
no irrigation. or
together.
fertilization.
it was in the same condition, and maybe I wrote it, maybe I shouldn't have written it the way I did, but I did say it was in violation of conditions number 7 and 10, and
I see.
7 does sit, it's the irrigation and fertilization clause. So if that was my fault, I apologize. I don't know if we can redo it.
I get it, all
Yeah.
right.
And also moving forward, I can just make sure that nothing gets put on that lawn or in that zone that doesn't belong there.
Maybe in future order of conditions, we separate those two to make sure that this
Yeah.
doesn't come
Sure.
up again.
Sure,
It's logical to lump them, but
makes sense. Yep. Sorry about that.
Live and learn.
Anything else, Jeff?
No.
Mark?
Is the irrigation removed at this point?
It's not. I spoke to Amy briefly, said I would turn it off when I got the first citation, and then when we put the 6 plants or whatever that didn't survive, I let her know I was going to turn it on until we had this meeting, just to let the 6 plants.
What I was getting to
Yeah.
is, given the fact that it's been really dry, and the long-range forecast is to stay dry, perhaps it would be advantageous to leave it for a short bit, just to ensure the health of everything coming up.
Drip irrigation could be installed for those
Okay.
plantings.
Going back
I
to
don't-
Amy's comments.
Yeah, I would just recommend, I mean, if it was considered a violation, I was thinking about this a lot, that we don't keep it.
Yeah, I mean, the only one thing I would say is a real irrigation system. I mean, I know how many gallons per minute are coming out of the heads or the whatever else. I know there's a backflow valve, and all the things you would have in a regular irrigation system, which you wouldn't have with a hose setup and a drip line.
Okay. I have no further question.
I have a question. You mentioned you'd let the owners regarding the, know about the fertilization.
Yes.
Who's actually doing, I thought you were managing. the
I am
property.
managing it, but again, the owners, have taken, they live in the property, and I can't say what they have and they haven't put on the lawn.
Well, if you're managing it, they shouldn't be doing anything to it.
Right. I mean, they're mowing it themselves and things like that, so I'm assuming.
Well, again,
Yeah.
this is a very sensitive area.
Right.
I mean, it's
Oh, I
not
get it. I
on
mean,
the edge of the salt marsh.
I tore the
It's-
I tore the
it's in
house
salt
down,
marsh.
and I saw. I mean, the past people who had the house were venting their washer dryer into the marsh, so I know what was going on there before I tore the house down.
Well, I think it
So
has to be made very clear
Yes.
to him or her.
no,
or whoever.
it is clear. I mean,
It's
they've
gonna go out to the owners
yeah,
anyway.
it's all
And definitely going back to the drip irrigation rather than in irrigation. system.
sure.
Do I have a motion
I would move to support Amy's recommendation.
to reduce?
I'll second.
Yes.
Question? When do you want it removed by?
Just one other thing. Is there anybody from the audience here regarding this? Okay. Immediately,
Okay.
it's-
Okay,
as far as I'm concerned.
okay,
I will take it out immediately.
thank you. Okay,
So I second.
To reduce the fine to $300.
Yeah.
based on any, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 141 Riverside Drive.
Oh, I got plenty. Nope. Oh, can I pass these out then? Of course. I have updated letters if you wouldn't mind.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Very well, how are you?
Finally fall.
So, you want me to just quickly introduce? So, after our first meeting with the property manager, Mr. Ashmore, the commission instructed him that he needed to have basically a landscape plan done, a replanting plan for the area that was disturbed. Something to talk about tonight too is, and I have not actually issued any fines since that date that we talked about.
The ones he paid, you mean?
He paid the original fine.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so Mr. Ashmore was given 45 days from July something to comply and present a restoration plan for the property. That date ended up being like a Saturday, so in the holiday, so we gave him until Tuesday. The plan hadn't come in. There'd been a little bit of back and forth, but the date came and went, and we didn't have anything. So immediately Mr. Ashmore contacted me upon finding this out. We've been working ever since with Mark and Lindsay here, and I have not physically actually issued a fine every day. I have not issued any fines at this point. I figured it would be something that we could talk about with the commission and see if you wanted to issue any fines for not complying with the 45-day time clock for that. So that was part of it. And I will say part of it was, I think at the meeting I had said I would send the letter out immediately. It didn't get out as immediately as I would have liked, but the direction was very clear at the meeting that he had 45 days to do it. So we can talk, that's one thing. And then the other thing is the replanting that Lindsay Strode from Cape Organics has provided for you. So.
Yeah, I was notified of all this, I don't know. Well, I went out there on July 23rd, and I remember that because that was the day of the tornado. And I was in the house at that time.
Oh, when the tornado hit?
When it hit. And there was a point, he has windows on both sides, and there was a point I said, you know what, we need to be in the middle of the house.
Mm-hmm.
But as bare as the ground was, there was no runoff. I was amazed, you know how hard it rained and everything. No runoff, the silt fence was in place. And I asked him, and there's a difference of opinion and of how the site got to where it was and what it was beforehand. And moving on beyond that, you know, he has planted grass out there with a surface irrigation system. I asked him, I said, I hope it was Cape Cod lawn. He said, yes, it was. And then, so since that point, Lindsay's been involved to come up with this planting plan, as you have it before you at the moment, and I think the applicant's been instructed that it's okay to start that planting because of the season now.
I spoke, just so to interrupt you for a moment.
Yep.
I did speak with Brad about this last week, and we found out we weren't going to have a hearing, and wanted to get this moving and capture the planting season, so he and I both agreed, hopefully you agree as well, that we let them start replanting.
And then, so that's the plan, anyway, is to implement the plan that Lindsay's come up with in accordance with the sketch plan that you have. And that should, you know, help everything get back to the way it should be. So moving forward, though, obviously there's a lot of construction work going on at the house. The 100-foot line from where I can measure it is right about the corner of the garage, the seaward corner of the garage. So there's another 100 feet, which is basically the whole property that's in the riverfront. And I didn't get that at first, because you know me, I don't do a lot of, the riverfront part doesn't just click in, because I'm always in the resource area. So,
Right.
I know, I'm always there, you know?
It's true. You're
So,
not around the river, you're in the river.
Buffer zone to me is like, what's that, you know?
Yeah.
So, so I get it now. He has driveway work he wants to do, he's got all the front landscaping he wants to do, whatever work in the front yard that he wants to do. He intends on filing a notice for that, so he's retained Dan from Moran Engineering, and we're gonna have a full site plan that incorporates all of the work, well, all of the work on the site, okay? That may take a while to get, so I'm asking for your patience, because just me, I can tell you, I have 5 licenses, 5 designs, and probably another 5 permits to do, filings, and 5 violations as well. You guys aren't the only town. So that's all on my plate, and I just have to get the things as time allows. But obviously you have our attention. He's retained professionals to handle it, and we will, you know, the planting will go ahead. The important stuff on the bank will go ahead right away, and I will get to it as soon as I get a plan from Dan. We can start scratching something out for you and get a filing together, but I can't give you a date.
So none of the other work is being done at this point until all the, other than these plantings and everything?
As far as I know, all that he's done momentarily is put the lawn in. The next thing will happen is all of the plantings in the 100-foot buffer. My understanding is that nothing else is gonna happen in the front yard until we do the filing. That's why he's directed Moran to get out there and get the survey.
He was permitted to remove a few trees in the front yard. We didn't have an accurate plan that showed the extent of the property, so we basically used Google Earth to come up with a rough 200, which put the trees that he originally requested out just outside right by the road.
Yeah.
Outside the 200-foot buffer, but I would extend it to that he really shouldn't be doing any work if the whole property is within riverfront area with the exception of that front strip. He really shouldn't be doing anything there, and I would be interested in knowing the mix that he used for grass that he put down.
Yeah, I told him that it better have been Cape Cod, and he said it was, but how do you, unless you could, you want to produce a receipt or something, or what? I mean, what do we do? You'll know in a season whether it was or not.
Well, no. I mean, I told him to seed some for stabilization purposes too, you know, but,
Yeah, he seeded basically everything from the house seaward.
okay.
And the area between the pool and the resource area, that was, the pictures, the last time I was there was a couple of weeks ago, very lightly. It didn't seem like he seeded that area hardly at all.
Okay,
So it'll,
no irrigation.
not down there, no.
Okay.
Not that I remember when I was there. I buzzed through it quick.
All right.
So we have a plan, but no pun intended.
And the most critical area was
Right.
that right down by the water, the slope itself and.
And the bank.
The bank, yeah, the slope and the buffer to it. So, I don't know if I have the sketch in here of the act, but then what the commission had said was at the meeting that the slope itself and then a buffer at the top of the slope was to be replanted, and that's what these plants go along with. There is a sketch, a hatched sketch that Lindsay had.
Did I give you that?
You did, but.
I thought I sent, I scanned it and sent it.
I don't know why did it print out? Because you sent me, Mark sent me this. It was basically a blow-up section of a plan with a hatched area, but it coincides with what we wanted planted, the slope and then a rounded buffer too. Yeah, if you want to hand it to me or them. Oh, geez. Thank you.
Oh, and there was a mention of the dock. So he does have there is a license for that dock. And the floats, it appears that somebody tacked on another float. And I'm like, do you want to spend $10,000 or you just want to remove the float? So he's just going to remove the float.
Good.
So that it's back to its,
Easy way.
that's the easiest for everybody.
Yeah, that's why, because we had said we wanted an as-built plan for the dock, but if the only thing that's not in compliance really is the float, if we can get that resolved, that's easy.
And there was some work, he did some maintenance work on the dock too.
Yes, you did.
We can include that in the notice.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it should be all part of the after the fact filing.
that's fine.
So
Double fees?
that's at the discretion of the commission.
Oh,
We could talk about that too, but I think it's encouraging, though it was a little bit after the fact, or a little bit after the date, that they did jump quickly and got this, and got stuff together. So the original fine was
$600?
$600 and it has been paid. I guess I'm always more about let's get things planted and done rather than fining people. So the intention of the fine is to make people, the repeated fine is to make people want to get work done. So I think even though it's a few days past the deadline that we got things, I would recommend that you do not fine them on daily. But that we maybe do put a, well, you're going to do this planting now. And that maybe we say that the after the fact filing for the dock and the other work has to be by a certain date. I mean, knowing that everyone is extremely busy too. But that's what I got for now.
Well,
I would like to know what mix he used. He was, do you know?
I do not.
You do not. We went there, excuse
Looking
me,
at it?
we went there one day when all work was supposed to have been stopped, and there was still work going on in the back of the house, so I don't really trust him, to be perfectly honest, so I would like to know. And I'm so glad that you gentlemen are involved. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I would like to know what the mix is.
Okay.
Okay.
okay, Carol?
I have a question on your, under renovation and revegetation, where you say, any remaining open areas will be protected with a cover of native softwood mulch to a depth of approximately 3 inches?
Correct.
And that's on the slope too?
That would be in areas that would be left open. We're not obviously going to plant to plant, so any areas, any shrub planting is going to get the mulch, and then any remaining open areas that is either not seeded or plugged would get mulch. And I've run into this in Chatham, and as soon as I say mulch, people think, oh, hemlock, pine bark mulch. This is what I'm terming a number 2 softwood mulch, or also called arborist mulch. It's just basically what's gone through a tree chipper, and it's ground up, and we reuse. It's just a recycled local product that we use, and sometimes we can screen it to get it screened so it's get some of the sticks and twigs out of it. But it's better for the plants for any number of reasons, but one specifically, and again, I am going through this with Chatham, is wood mulch has similar symbiotic mycorrhizal fungi in it. So if you're using tree mulch that's from Vermont, Connecticut, it's going to be different than it is on the Cape. So what we're doing is using mulch that's generated here, and it actually enhances the plant's ability to utilize the mycorrhizal fungi in the soil that is symbiotic and helps stick or glue exudates to the roots and offer more establishment opportunities for the plant.
In a heavy rain, what prevents this from being washed away?
In a super heavy rain, nothing, but we use a heavier mulch, so it's not this fine mulch that can blow, and it's also a relatively sheltered spot. We just put the same mulch down along a driveway that we're doing. It's not close to a resource, but it's probably a 2-to-1 slope. And after the rains that we've had the past several days, nothing has gone anywhere. So it's considerably more stable than a fine light pine mulch that essentially in a 2-inch rain or 1-inch rain would float.
No, I mean, so that would help retain moisture for the first year. It would only be a one-time application of
Correct.
that mulch. You're
Correct.
not going to routinely do it.
This is not something that, exactly.
It's not going to be a landscaped area
No.
at all. Okay.
And can you use drip, can you use drip irrigation until the plants get established, and
2
then,
to 3 growing
and
seasons.
then you yank it, right?
Yeah, well, we chat after 2 and see how things are doing. We could reevaluate if you need it for
Overhead in
another
that
1 or
area,
2.
just be easier.
But that's our typical, is 2 to 3 growing seasons with a drip.
Okay. That was a question, not a statement.
So, don't mean to dwell on the mulch, but I thought that any kind of wood-based mulch product used up nitrogen. Is that not the case? Doesn't it deprive the soil and the plants that are planted there of nutrients?
That's a very interesting question, and that's also one that I addressed for Chatham, and it does not. Anecdotal evidence says that it does, but scientifically, it does not. If you're using wood mulch in a perennial situation, where you're trying to grow tomatoes or, vegetable plants, wood mulch does have the ability, when laid on the soil, to utilize nitrogen through the microbial process. The bacteria that are breaking down the carbon use nitrogen as their energy source. But in this situation, it does not, nor does it acidify the soil as people had assumed. I can send you the same information that I just provided to Chatham if you
I'd be
like.
interested, it might just out of
Sure.
interest.
I can copy you guys on that too.
Thank you.
Learn something every day.
Exactly.
That's
So that's it. Mark?
Do you have a tentative completion date for finishing up the backyard?
I do not at this point, because I haven't got the go-ahead from anybody. So as soon as if this is an approval, I'll order the plants this week, and probably by this second week of October, second week of October, we're almost there. We'd be in there. It shouldn't take long to pull it all together.
And the question for me, because I'm not a plant guy, and you all know that, but how much of it we get established between now and the end of the growing season?
Well, plants' roots will actually grow up until the ground freezes. You may lose the top growth after the first frost, but the below-ground sections will continue to grow until the ground freezes.
And so the first frost usually is around November 1st here, but the hard freeze doesn't come till end of December, early January, sometimes
March.
at all. Yeah, you never know, depending on the year.
I'd like to see that.
This year they're saying very mild. We'll see.
I just want to clarify, so the only thing you're involved in is the planting plan?
Well, yeah, whatever Lindsay come up, the sketch, we can put that on the notice of intent plan, so it's formal for the record. The dock will be on there, it said maintenance work to the dock.
I guess what I'm trying to clarify, Mark, all the other things that he's working on, are you gonna be involved with all of that?
All of the site work?
Yes.
Right, I'll be doing the filing for that. Dan will be doing the plan, and I'll be doing the filing for everything.
He's the clerk of the works on the main project.
Well, I just wanted to clarify because of the problems we had previously.
Yeah. If you have anything you want to talk about this property, go to me, okay?
But he's gonna be doing the work, you're gonna do the planning, he's gonna
Lindsay's doing
plan.
the planting.
Yeah.
Well, no, I meant the other
I
site
know.
work. I'm not concerned
Yeah,
about
to
the
redetermine
planting right now.
Dan and I will come up with a formal plan that we'll submit as part of the filing,
Only for back, not for the front yard.
for everything.
For
Everything.
Everything.
Front
That's
yard,
what I was trying to clarify.
Yeah, I don't know what plans he has for the front yard yet. Once we get a site plan, then we'll sketch stuff out and get it formal, and then I'll do the filing.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I haven't been out there in a little while. He had stripped the front, and you said reseeded. Is there new irrigation in there?
The only irrigation I saw was on the back, the only seed I saw was on the backyard from the house towards the resource area, and that was above ground, just sticking out.
Just want to
Temporary.
iterate that anything within the 200-foot riverfront area is jurisdictional, so we would need to approve it.
Right, so the
if
final,
wasn't sure if he put in irrigation in the front. I did, so.
no,
he
it's still,
didn't? That's good.
last time I was there was a week or so ago, and it was
Okay.
still all dirt in the front.
Okay.
And
Last time when I drove by, that's what it looked like too, but I wasn't sure.
yeah, and I think the understanding I have is his understanding is nothing's gonna happen in the front now until we get a plan and get a filing together.
Okay.
And if you see anything different, I want a phone call. Don't call him, just call me. Okay?
I'll
Well-
talk to anybody.
John, you had
So I just want to say, I think that I support your suggestion, Amy, that we not follow through with the daily fines, but I would use the word suspend as opposed to revoke.
Sure.
Just, and I don't know formally how you keep that threat there, but given the history of the project, I think we should keep in mind that that could still happen as of the date when you were originally considering daily fines. I don't know what that date was.
September 3rd,
September 3rd?
something like that. It's right out, it was the Tuesday after the holiday, Labor Day.
Okay, and then
Go-
when
go.
we, oh,
Oh, just going back to the daily fine thing, what were the fine, I mean,
300. Sorry.
for specifically what?
It was just 300 a day until they provided a plan, a restoration plan
For planting,
for planting. Yep.
but not anything else that's been going on? The site,
No, I'd have to go back through, but it was mainly the planting plan.
okay, so there were no fines for any of the
The
other sites?
dock there was, and they already paid that
Right.
one-time fine for that.
Okay.
So as long as we can say, I mean, what's a reasonable deadline for an after the fact for the dock plus everything else?
Okay, so the daily fines were strictly for the planting plan?
Mhm.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
was
it was
trying
really
to
to put
clarify.
pressure on in order to get the something done this fall. So. that's
So
what the
if
pressure
there were
was.
any issues with other than planting,
Yeah, I mean, there
fines
is
would have
still, other than the planting, which is gonna get done, there should be nothing else happening outside.
Right. So if there were to be any additional fines, would be due to other site things that were
That come up.
so. Going back to, I think, John's question though regarding the planting plan, right? I was just trying to clarify what the
Mhm.
planned fines.
So I guess what we should do is have a date, give Lindsay, some working room, but
Well,
still
for
have a
the
date
filing,
certain.
more so Mark, for the filing.
yeah, Lindsay only need you only need by like the end of October, everything could be planted, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'd like to say if I could get a filing, because let's see, Dan still has to do the survey, then he's got to crunch the numbers, and then I get a plan, that takes a while. Can I ask that we could file a notice by the end of the year? And I can update you anytime Amy wants me to update, I can just send an email saying, okay, we got the survey done. Now the monkey's on my back to get a plan. Okay, we got that done, now we're gonna do the filing, and we pick a filing deadline. I'm happy to update you as we go, and if I can do it
I'd like
sooner,
some updates,
Yeah.
so maybe 2 months from now, so around Thanksgiving. I don't wanna wait until January 1st necessarily. So the week of Thanksgiving. How does that sound, at least for an update? I would like you to shoot for that date if you possibly can, but at least for an update with where you're at.
okay.
Is that- yeah.
And the key word there is an update.
It's an update,
Right.
yeah, it's. I
Right.
mean,
I have one in Yarmouth that's been on for, I don't know, 6 months now, because the surveyor was 6 weeks out just to get on the site.
No, and I understand, so that's why it's an update, really not a hard.
I'm happy to
date for you.
update you, you can beat me up with emails all you want, I'll tell you everything I know.
Okay.
I think the biggest concern is, so he's gotta understand, nothing's to be done.
When I leave here, I'll give him a call, well, tomorrow, and I'll reiterate that to him.
Okay.
Work on the house, not the yard.
So what do we,
Oh, sounds like you're gonna make a
Approve
motion.
the restoration planting plan and hold the fines,
so
or
I'll
not
make a-
hold,
go-
but,
I'll make a
Can I
motion.
ask a
Go
question?
ahead.
Sorry, in your shrub plant community, As I'm reading this right, you're gonna plant 9 low bush blueberries, and they're either gonna be 1, 2, or 3 gallons.
Correct.
There's
Yes.
a big difference between putting in all 3 gallons and all 1 gallon.
Correct. And I do that because often is the case, and particularly this time of year, I'll go to my supplier and the ones won't look good, the 2s will look great, and the 3s aren't worth it. So I give myself some wiggle room. Typically, I try to plant as small as I can because it'll require less, it'll take quicker, and it'll actually a 4-inch pot would outgrow a 3-gallon pot within the same time frame because they just need less to get going and typically suffer less transplant shock when they're installed. So that's just something I've always done just to give me some room. Because if I say I'm going to plant all 7-gallon plants and I get there and there's no good 7-gallon plants and then I've got to scramble and then it's just, then the 15-gallon plants look the best. I know they're not going to do as well, plus it becomes a price issue, and then, you know, I have to then come back. So this just gives me some room to maneuver.
That makes perfect sense, although sometimes we've gone back to sites and what we thought should have covered the site and later on looked very sparse.
Yeah, and at the same time, and I do understand your concern, and I've had this years ago in Dennis, they wanted some punitive planting is what I called it. You know, they wanted 4-inch, 6-inch trees planted, and they were well within their right to do so. But in order to do that, it was you would have needed a crane. You would have needed just an incredible amount of effort, and I understand the reasoning behind it. However, that being said, smaller plants, and I can certainly say that we're not planting, again, shoulder to shoulder. We're not trying to completely revegetate. We're spreading these out, giving them the room to grow and become established. We can always add more plants later if it's not full enough. And the way I do this is typically I'll take 1/3 of the canopy plants or shrub plants, 1/3 of ground cover, and then 1/3 for seed in those cases. And I didn't put any seed into this because there's some grass there already, and there's also some sassafras that'll start to regrow. It is starting to regrow and will continue to do so. So again, we can always put more in later if needed.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you'll notice here, I'm on the site for management and maintenance. So if something dies, it'll get replaced.
Thank you.
You will provide us with the name of the mix that you plant.
One of us will find out what kind of grass it was.
John?
So I'll move to approve the Coastal Bank Restoration Planting Plan presented here for 141 Riverside Drive, and also to suspend the daily fine.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Is this the same one?
Is your client planning on joining us?
I got a voicemail from him this afternoon. It's gonna sound very typical, but he says, my secretary booked him at 5 o'clock in Kingston, so there was no way he was gonna get back here.
Okay, just checking if we were gonna wait, you know.
No,
do something
I know,
else first.
I don't feel the wheels of the bus coming, but I think we're at a good enough point to
Good,
move on.
so,
422 Main Street?
422 Main Street?
Oh, so this is marked again?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So what
I know,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna be
do.
known
Well, you weren't on the name
I know,
on this.
I know, no, I don't want a reputation as being the fixer, okay, so,
So what I'm gonna give
but I'm happy
you-
to help.
I can pass this around. I do need a fax, this is the Board of Health copy of the site plan. So this was, you can actually see the driveway had extended farther than we, this is what you saw. Pass this around, 100 buffer, which essentially is almost at the back of the house there. So we got a notification that there was some activity happening along the pond here. And this is Flax Pond. Activity was happening along the pond. I went, found the contractor was redoing a patio, had removed a retaining wall, and that a lot of the site had been disturbed. I took, Mark, I did take some of them out to the site today.
Oh, okay.
They did see it. It is good that they did put up the erosion control like I had requested. But, so if you look on, if you do go through past aerial photos, you can see that there was a patio and a retaining wall. However, they didn't have a permit to replace them, and there was an awful lot of area that was disturbed in order to do those things, more so than I think was necessary. But also you can tell by looking at past aerials that over the past few years, more and more of the lot as it fronts the pond is being, more of the vegetation is being removed or mown. We saw that today, you know, bayberries that should be 6 feet tall or 6 inches tall, so probably this area is, right by the pond, is being gravely mowed annually or something. So I think Mark is here today to kind of get some direction from the Conservation Commission. I have not yet issued any fines for this, so it is at your discretion today. I'm recommending $600, 200 or 300 for basically the grading, which would also encompass the retaining wall, but any grading work and unauthorized work on the retaining wall or patio, and then 300 for the cutting, routine cutting without permit of the vegetation along the pond. It's just my recommendation, and I would recommend a replanting in the meantime, because it is getting towards the end of the season. It's going to be hard to get a planting plan not only in, but started this fall.
Yeah.
So that in the meantime, that they should seed with a Cape Cod mix, keep that sill fence up, and let, I mean, because right now you'll get winter rye will grow this time of year, at least start to stabilize the soils in preparation for a spring replant of whatever plan that the commission eventually approves for the replanting of that site. And the key for the fall is to get that stabilized.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so I was out there too, and I walked around with him. The owner seems very cooperative. Without knowing the past history, it's one of these things that probably a lot of it's been done for many years. But needless to say, if you do something wrong long enough, it doesn't make it right, you know? So I said, okay, the silt fence is good. Everywhere behind the silt fence needs to be raked out and then stabilized with grass. Everything forward of the silt fence, I think, for the moment, let it go. Just don't cut it, let it go, let it grow back.
The pond front, yeah.
Yeah, the pond. Did I say seaward? The pondward, I guess, of the...
Waterward?
Yeah, towards the water, from the silt fence towards the water.
Yeah.
It wasn't gravely drowned to
No.
nothing, so
It's
it should
fine.
pop back pretty quick.
And it's starting to already.
Yeah.
So.
And then I said, you really made a mistake when you cut down 5 trees. I go, that wasn't very good. So I told him I gave him the planting list from the town, and I said, pick 15 things that you want to plant there. I haven't got that information yet. If that's acceptable to you, the plan of action moving forward would be, 1, have him choose 15 things to plant out there for 3 to 1 for the trees that were cut down. Let the rest of the area, I told him to rake, that pending your approval, rake out the wood chips, because that might prevent some growth, and neaten it up a little bit, and then just let that area naturalize, because there's no bare spots. It should come back. Then the blocks have to be removed that are on the far right side, and then the rest of it can be raked and planted with grass. As far,
It will be yet to be determined whether or not that whole area can be grass, because
well, there wasn't a whole lot there. If you look at the rest of it, there wasn't a whole lot of anything there but weeds. But
I meant within the silt fence area, you know.
Onward of the silt fence or within the silt fence?
Within the silt fence.
Yeah, that's all dirt now, so.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we'll have to see whether or not that's gonna be allowed to be lawn. Because, as I said, the aerials have shown that just over the past few years,
Yeah?
that it's tree, and, and then all of a sudden it really starts to open up. So, I don't know if we can commit today to what a suitable replanting plan would be. I'd be happy to come out on the site and we can discuss further.
Yep.
To develop a plan. I would say a start would be those 15. Maybe you don't want to do all trees, maybe you want to do, but we can start, we gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, I think we figured that the understory that wasn't cut right by the edge of the pond, it looks like it's 4 or 5 feet tall anyway. And I said, pick stuff that's around that height with maybe 1 or 2 bigger ones off to the side, you know. So we'll come up with that and it'll be subject to your approval, you know. And that way it'll keep things roughly a decent height that they won't be tempted to cut them again, you know. So anyway, that's what, so short term, let everything naturalize, clean it up, get the debris out of there. Long term, what do you need from me to show it? I have a site plan. Is that the one that you showed them? I have a different one, but I got this from you.
Oh, I need that one. I'll take that one, yeah. No,
I got it from you
That's
guys.
actually the same one I have. No, that's what
It
I
doesn't
have.
have septic on it, I don't.
This is from 2008.
It looks the same.
Yeah, it is. It's from J.M. O'Reilly. Is that the one you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because it shows the buffer and 100 foot on it, so I could.
Yeah,
I
it does,
see
but
that
it doesn't
back.
show current conditions.
Well, that doesn't show the retaining wall, which I do think was there, or the patio.
Right, and it doesn't show
So
the
that would all
full.
be part of the after-the-fact filing. And there's a walkway back there as well.
It doesn't even. Does it show the rest of the house?
No, the house has been built out
Yeah,
significantly.
it's like
from
connects
what's there.
everything. Well, at any rate, but all that's beyond the 100. So for the stuff that's within the 100, what I need to know is, do you need a stamped plan, or can I cloud in areas and show, like Lindsay did, show you where things are going to be planted? What do you need from me to as a plan?
I think we need a site plan that shows the hard structures that are there. As far as the planting plan, I don't think it necessarily, it's maybe a little bit less formal, in terms of you sketching on where and where things are gonna go.
But you need a formal updated site plan then.
Because this doesn't show the retaining wall or which would be a structure,
Yeah.
and the patio,
So,
and the walkway. Go ahead.
We haven't even studied.
yeah,
Because I have to give him a proposal for this, so I have to know what I need to do, and then I'll
Yep.
get him.
Any hardscape within the 100-foot buffer. Site plan.
Okay.
And he may want to, he already has a J.M. O'Reilly suggestion. He already has a site plan for the property, at least the baseline's been done.
Yeah, Moran has one too.
Great, well, there you
So
go.
we have more than one to choose from.
It's been baseline stuff for this.
Yep.
And they have applied to conservation administratively for little things here and there, so they were aware that they had to file with conservation. And this is also a case where, I'm sorry, the contractor needs to be responsible as well.
Well, it is him, right? He's a contractor and he's
I
the
don't
homeowner.
know, I know I spoke with somebody else who was doing the patio,
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
so it's up to the commission how you want to handle that. But I think it is starting to work where you hold the contractors responsible. We're starting to get more compliance with those contractors.
Because I think he's a mason contractor. It might have just been his employees that were doing it, in which case you're fine. If you want to
I'll
find a
see
homeowner and
why don't I give you the name of that person?
okay,
I don't know if you want me to do it here at a public meeting or just send an email to you with the name of that person and see if it works, he works for him.
yeah, because you may be finding the owner
Yeah.
and the contractor at the same time.
Okay.
That's a double fine, and a corporation is a person legally.
So,
I get it. I get it. I'm not arguing. I'm just understanding.
Okay.
So anyways, we haven't, Paul, do you have any comments, questions?
We were out there today, and there is an awful lot of cut. You saw it's clear cut, and the patio most definitely should have been permitted. And if he did it himself, then shame on him. Contractors, the homeowners, they all need to be held responsible for this. If he's come to the Conservation Commission before, he knows.
And,
I don't know if it's him or his, I think the property's in his mother's name, but
yeah,
somebody from the family, the property has come, so.
and there's like, not that this matters, there's a, probably the 100-foot goes through a small portion of where that patio is. So they might have thought, it's close enough, who knows? I'm not gonna speculate.
Right.
It is what it is.
Mhm.
Do you need a notice for this one too?
I think so.
Okay.
We don't know, I don't know the extent that that wall was or is proposed to go, if it's gonna encroach on the 60-foot no new structure. I think we need a notice.
Well, his intention would be to put it back exactly the way it was, as far as it not extending any further than it was. I haven't seen it, I don't know where it is. You can measure on Google Earth so we can find out pretty close what it used to be.
It's really kind of hazy.
Yeah?
That, it's hard for me to see it, but we can try. But, I mean, it's just easy to see where he wants, like, where is it going to go? How far is it going to go?
Yeah.
And use that.
Okay.
Anything else, Paul?
No.
Carol?
No.
John?
Okay, so actually it occurred to me after I looked at that plan that there's a bunch of extension of the house away from the pond.
Yeah.
There's garage area,
Yeah.
and there's another 100-foot buffer behind there.
For
I don't know
another
what
wetland.
that is too. I also, it's not at all clear to me whether or not any of that new building is encroaching on the 100-foot buffer on the other side. I think that needs to be ascertained.
You kind of need an existing condition site plan.
Exactly. So it's just another reason why the whole, a new and current site plan
Yep.
Okay.
needs to be made. You said that he should rake out the wood chips. That looked to me more like a pile of wood chips, not, and I mean, it's a mound. I
Well,
mean,
there is a
maybe-
mound.
Maybe it's an inch of wood chips over a mound of dirt, I don't know, but my guess, when I looked at it, I was assuming that was the trees that had been cut down along the bank, which is just in a pile of wood chips.
I agree with you. There's two piles, so there's a wood chip and a debris pile of some sort, and then there's all the blocks over further away.
Those have to be
Those gotta
removed.
go too. I was referring to
What's that?
Recommend removing the piles.
Remove the piles of chips,
any, okay.
or they need to be outside the 100-foot buffer anyway, right?
Yeah.
No, what I was talking about was where the vegetation was cut, right around where each tree, right around where each tree was, there's some chips, some of them are this big, and I'm just thinking they're gonna inhibit the growth of the ground cover.
Yeah,
So, it wasn't a pile, it's just some chips like from a stump grinder or something. And, cause they were ground, right? The stumps were
Yeah,
ground.
I'm happy to meet with him on site.
So though, stump grinder leaves much bigger chips, and they left it right there. So those are the kinds of things I was saying, rake out of there so that the understory can come back.
Right.
Easier, that's all. But those are big chips and nothing but chips.
So, my other comment is your stated intention is to tell him to pick 5 different kinds of plants he wants. And
15.
And I'm questioning that, given that you yourself are a self-confessed not a plant person.
That's right.
And we have no idea whether this guy is a plant person, so just a random selection of plants from the town or the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension or whatever. I'm not sure, you might need some extra input, at least Amy's input.
I think I could, because this is an enforcement action, I think I could work with you to come up with a suitable planting plan.
Sure. I mean, he would, I asked him this, what's great about your planting plan, it's even better than the cooperative extension, is you have pictures. So I said,
And we
look
have
at
more
the.
things on it.
What?
We have more things on our.
It's great. So you look at that and you go, I said, this is what it's gonna look like. So just pick what you think is gonna work. I'll look at it as much as I can, and then it has to go through Amy. So we'll tweak it, but I want him to at least try to pick stuff he might want to put there first and see if it's okay with you guys. But let him do his homework, and then we'll massage it
Then
as
I'll
we
grade
need
it.
to. Then you'll grade it, yeah. Okay, so remove the chips, piles, and block, and that can be done immediately, right? Okay.
And another thing I noticed about the site, and others did, I think, is that there's a way, there's a road or that appears to have, it's not clear whether that was pre-existing or not, or whether it was cut recently. I don't know what we should be.
The easement,
Well, I'm not talking about the easement, I mean, there's.
The path through the woods here?
There's a path,
Yeah, the driveway that was cut in.
there's a driveway
It
that
does
was
say-
cut in there, and
yep. So it says portion, actually it says on this plan, portion of drive, this is the plan that I'm looking at from Sweetser, Paul Sweetser. Another plan.
The
This was the plan from '97. I'm happy to share this with you. It actually does say on here, portion of driveway to be abandoned, and that was the area that we saw that had been used for access. So that,
Where-
that
yeah, where is that?
So when you come in his driveway, you come in the driveway, you come in this way, there was a cut where the machinery came in around here. That should be abandoned or replanted new, too. Okay.
Do you have scans of that?
I'll get you one. I'll make you one.
Because I can take a picture of it,
I'll scan it for you tomorrow. You can take a picture if you want.
but scan's better.
Okay, I will scan it for you.
Scan,
It was supposed to be abandoned.
It was.
20 years ago. Okay,
Really now.
okay.
you gotta remember for these, this is what I call a blind date for me, so I just make the best of it.
So you're done, John?
I am.
Mark?
Yes, that's actually buffered. There's 3 wetlands. There's across, on the other side of the easement, there's the edge of the bog, which
Jeez.
plays into some of this too. 3 wetlands,
I didn't even realize there was a house back there.
right? You wouldn't.
I thought it was driving down the power lines.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
Mark has nothing. I'm not clear now. We had this plan, or the site plan from 2008, or the drawing, doesn't show any of the patio or anything, but yet we said the patio was pre-existing.
The patio you can see, and I've seen it on Google Earth. I don't know why it didn't get picked up in the survey.
But was
'Cause
it originally approved?
it was before this plan. It was before '08 that I can still see it. So I don't know why it didn't make it on a plan. So I don't know when it came in, but it was before '08.
And then we were talking about that extension of the patio that almost looked like a walkway to.
So that'll come in, yes, so that'll have to get after the fact approval and be subject to our mitigation requirements of a minimum of,
It comes from off the patio towards the,
Towards the wall.
to the wall.
yeah.
And it looked like, I mean, I call it a walkway. It was about a 3-foot, 4-foot strip.
It appeared
It
to
was
be a
part of it,
walkway,
it looked just like
I mean, it looks
made out of
like
the
part of the patio, but
but
it's
it's a walkway.
It's a walkway.
okay.
to the wall.
On the pond side of the house,
Yes.
okay.
So we weren't sure what that was.
If you're standing on the patio, it's to the right,
Okay.
looking at the pond.
Is it stepped down too or something?
No, it
No,
was
no,
flat
no,
to
that's
the
flat.
wall.
Oh, okay.
So I would say any new hardscape would have to meet we'd have to also mitigate for that as well. Maybe the patio is something that we would, because seeing as it's right on the 100 with mitigation, maybe we would have permitted it, so that's how you would approach it potentially. But could do more mitigation too.
Okay. Well,
And I guess I wasn't clear about the wall. It was there and he's replacing it.
It was there, I don't know how long it's been there, but
And he's
Didn't see.
replacing it in kind, what he's taken down? Like, I mean, part of the wall
we
was
have to
there.
approve it, we gotta approve that. That'll be part of the after the fact approval.
Yeah.
If, and it'll be, you're gonna review it as if it's a new proposal, like it's not there, essentially.
for
Yeah, the idea
wall.
would be to try to ascertain as accurately as possible what was there,
Right.
and whatever he's proposing to put back wouldn't be more than that. That's my goal.
So at this point tonight, we're not,
I think again, we should, so give them direction. One, we should talk about fines.
fine.
And also, give them, say again, a deadline for submittal. Seeing as how you have to work with multiple parties, I'd probably say another update or submittal by around Thanksgiving.
There's two more things added to my list.
Sorry, but just think of how nice Thanksgiving will be if you get this done.
If I what?
If it's all done.
For them. And then I'm just gonna be behind.
Well, again, is this any
Yes.
different than the other one? I mean, is
No.
that reasonable update versus submittal, like this is what
Right,
I'm.
and I have two companies I can ask who has the lesser workload that can get to it. I collaborate with both of them. I've done that for many years.
We can say definitely by the first of the year, but we would like you to shoot, an update or shoot for around the holiday. So stabilize it in the meantime, keep that erosion control up. Seed with a native Cape Cod mix. That entire area, that is dirt.
We'll have to
The
do
Cape
some
Cod
grading or
winter-
whatever there.
I don't know if you really need to do much grading right
Just
now.
rake stuff
Or
out.
raking.
Rake it out.
Rake the tracks out of there.
Yeah, you can rake it
Yeah.
out,
Take the bumps out.
for sure. Seed it with like a winter rye or something.
Should take a little bit of the sand back out of the brush to the west side and push some fill down the hill and into the undergrowth on the way out to that old road. It's like easy enough to just drag that sand back out of there and clean it up a little bit and
Oh.
back drag the area. That silt fence really ought to be reinstalled because the base of it's not dug
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. I told him to dig it in, but I guess he didn't. I had mentioned backing it with a wattle too.
Given the time frame, I would
Yes.
insist on that.
I have a question. I'm a little confused on the mulch. The way Lindsay described the mulch that they're putting down in the previous case, he used the example of taking a tree, chopping it up, taking a native tree from this area, chopping it up, and then using the wood chips as a mulch. So in that case, we're letting them put down wood chips. In this case, because that will hold moisture in and stabilize the bank, and in this case, we're asking them to remove the wood chips
Because it's suppressing growth
because it's suppressing growth.
underneath, of stuff that's underneath it.
Yeah, so why aren't the wood chips in the previous case suppressing growth?
They're around the base of the plant, not on top of it.
Well, they were filling in the empty areas.
Yeah.
Very likely the other product was probably reground, so it's probably broken down more so than just the bigger chunks.
Okay, very likely.
And the mulch, my understanding would be the mulch is used for like bare spots versus here, you've got all that understory that's gonna try to grow back. It doesn't have any bare spots, so you don't want to do anything to smother that, and you want to try to release it as much as possible. So that's where I said just to remove some of the bigger chips that might be getting in the way of that, but then of course remove the pile that's there as well, along with the bricks. Okay, so I'll do my best and maybe spread the love around with the other company.
Just before we go, are you here for this hearing or for
CPC.
No,
Okay, I just wanted to know if you had any questions regarding this issue.
no, I'm here because of
Okay.
real estate and open space committee.
Okay,
Open space.
so.
Okay.
Need a motion.
We need a-
Fine.
Anybody like to make a motion? Yeah, this would be good.
So what are we doing? I make a motion, it was two $300 fines we're talking about.
That's what I suggest. You can do something else if you like.
So I move that we enforce a fine for 422 Main Street for $300 for the unpermitted patio and other hardscape work, and another fine for $300 for the unpermitted cutting within the buffer zone. Should we just make that one motion and do that, and then?
You can wrap it in together if you want.
I have a different opinion about that, if it matters.
Well,
Whatever.
so,
We get a
whenever
motion
it's
in a
appropriate.
Well, we
second.
gotta make the motion in a
Do you
second,
want to
then,
include the stabilization in the meantime?
oh, and that, right, at 422 Main Street, that all the litter and trash, including broken up masonry and piles of wood chips, be removed, and the remaining topsoil be raked out and overseeded with winter rye.
Winter rye.
And including the abandoned driveway, that be raked out and overseeded with winter rye as well. Okay, that's my
and
motion.
then what about a plan?
And that we require a site plan, a complete site plan, and a planting plan for the area by the end of the year, preferably before Thanksgiving,
With an update, or,
Yeah.
at a minimum update.
At a minimum, an update around Thanksgiving.
Okay,
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
I would like to see the fines tabled until the final site plan is completed and we accumulate a little bit more information regarding responsibility and how the whole circumstance escalated to where it is. I think a fine at this point is premature.
The only thing I would be a little unsure about myself is that you have a certain amount of time to levy a fine after you notice a violation.
Okay. Is there a method?
You could do this now, and if it was discovered upon receipt of the site plan that there was more, then that's new. You could potentially do more fines at that point, once you realize if there was a change in magnitude of what we thought is violation.
If you find out information that reduces that, can you rescind a fine?
Well,
Or are you locked in once you do it?
No, we
did one tonight.
We reduced one earlier.
Well, the daily fine, yeah, but.
No, but even before that, we reduced a 600 to a 300.
Okay. And do you like give them more time to pay it or something while you're looking for additional information, or
We
how
can
does?
give it like, so you have 30 days to pay it, but we can put in the citation that they can have longer.
so
I don't want us to not have the ability to levy one. That's the
Right.
only thing, if you want that.
Mark, I'm unclear what's behind your thinking on this.
Responsibility of the contractor. I think this goes beyond the homeowner. I think the responsibility should be shared. And it's not clear to me that all that information is available right
Yeah,
now.
we don't know if the homeowner is the contractor or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
If you're gonna spank somebody, better figure out who it is.
I would spank them both.
Well,
And so, this may not help my client at all, but honestly, if the contractor, if you're gonna issue a fine to the contractor and a fine to the homeowner, and they happen to be the same person, then he just pays the $600 fine.
He pays two.
He has to pay both of them. unless he,
I'm sure it comes out of a different checkbook.
So
I don't know if I just helped or hurt, but
I think that the violation has already occurred, and the violation is clear. And so I'm very much in favor of sticking with this fine, and if it turns out we should be fining someone else, we should, we can do that as well.
Can you still do that after the fact, or is there a time limit on that, though? To levy an additional fine?
You could, well, if you're talking about doing the contractor, I know who the contractor is. It's not the same person, or the person who was out there on the site. Maybe he was the foreman of the company, I don't know. You can always levy both and then rescind. You could, if you wanted to levy to both. We don't actually like fining, by the way, this is very rare for us. You could always levy it to both now. Once we get clarification, you can rescind. If it turns out to be the same people. So you could do it that way. You could say to fine the owner and the contractor separately now. And if it turns out they are one and the same in terms of it's the owner's company, and I just happen to meet with the foreman, we can discuss that.
what do you do? What would you do?
Hmm?
What would you do if the owner is the contractor?
The
What-
commission can decide if they want
Yeah,
to rescind the fine. So the name of the person that I was given, who I met on the site, who was doing the work for that day, who
Yeah.
said he was responsible, was not Mr. Barber.
Okay. Yeah, I think his company is Sheetrock, actually.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, personally, I would think that if the owner has his own company, it's kind of like double jeopardy if you were to find both of them. I mean, he is one and the same, in my own opinion, at that point. But that's my own personal opinion.
So what you're getting at is that if the owner is the contractor, then you would rescind one of those
Well,
fines.
that was
But
my
we don't know
opinion.
that
I don't
yet.
know if everybody would agree with that,
Yeah,
but
but we don't know
the
that yet.
potential is to rescind.
Okay, and you have the ability to do that
Yes.
at some point.
At a public meeting, yeah.
So far, the motion on the floor is
Yeah.
a single fine,
Okay.
and so
Oh,
So,
this,
well,
Yeah, John's
I mean, is
two single fines.
two
to the homeowner.
fines, and the motion did not state who was being fined.
It's true.
So that should probably be clarified, except, as Mark is pointing out, it's a little bit muddy, who's involved here. So, and I think we could go around in circles about
right.
whether or not, whether or not the contractor is the owner, and it could be that, the owner is a third party holding the thing, or it's a third party trust, or whatever, who knows? So, I think I would modify my motion to say that the responsible party should be fined, and the responsible party, unless we find out otherwise, is the owner of the property.
Okay.
No, we had the motion, so,
In a second.
So
and
now
it was seconded.
Now I
so-
propose it.
I want the second.
Pardon?
I seconded it without that addition.
Okay, so I'm proposing an amendment, then we can vote.
It's okay.
Well, it's an amendment being proposed here,
Yeah.
you can agree or disagree.
Yeah.
I'm proposing that
Responsible party is what you're wording.
we add the language that the responsible party be fined.
As
That's
opposed to
fine.
both parties.
Can
That's
we
what I'm
say
saying.
parties, plural?
We can, I'm not sure what that means.
I'm not sure why it has to be that complicated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, I'm trying to get it uncomplicated.
If you want to find the owner $300 and the contractor $300, and they happen to be the same person, then that person's going to pay $600.
Exactly, the lawyer who defends himself as
And
a,
that- well,
as
unless
a
we,
fool for a client.
unless we choose to rescind part of it.
It just seems like that.
So, you're making a different proposal for amendment, you're suggesting that we just fine the owner and fine the contractor, make it that simple.
Of $600 each.
No, $300 each, a total
Well,
of
there were
$600.
two, no, there were two
Two violations.
violations.
Yeah, two distinct activities.
Oh, okay,
That's
I
why
didn't,
we're getting
that wasn't what I was understanding. I thought it was
Yeah.
$300 each.
No, it's 300 per type of violation. One was the hardscape and one was the landscape.
Okay, well then I agree with Mark.
Okay.
All right, so-
Unfortunately, you don't get to vote,
So,
What are-
Because that's $1,200.
so your
That
your
can go toward plants.
proposal,
Yeah,
I don't know either,
I
but
misunderstood you.
is for the responsible party.
That's too vague, though. It's too vague. I'm sorry, I withdraw that. It's too vague.
So
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 you're
we're back
gonna-
to the original motion,
It's find the owner.
Find the
It's
owner.
just
Okay.
find the owner.
which is what we have the motion for. right?
Okay,
All right.
Is there any further discussion
we
on
already had a
this?
second on that for the original motion.
Right, so is there any further discussion on this?
And that's a total of $600 then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
For the two
understand.
events? Are we all set with any other discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Something else, seconded? Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, it's fine. It passed.
So it's 3 to
It
2.
passed.
So just as a point of reference, so I had the same situation in another town, I won't say which one, and they had a quorum,
Mhm.
and my understanding was that vote would pass. But the person went back to their local bylaws, and their local bylaws said had to be 4 people no matter what.
Ours do not.
Okay.
Ours is a majority, so we hold 7 people,
Yep,
but a
4
quorum is the majority of the members present.
yep, no, that works fine. And that was my understanding of the way it went. When I
Other
was
towns
told
might
about,
not be the same way.
apparently not. When I learned about that, I'm like, what, really? So, okay, good.
Okay,
Learning every day.
thank you.
Thank you.
Can we, since we have the chairwoman of Real Estate and Open Space here,
Right,
would you
that's
think-
what I
would we
assumed
skip
we would
to
do.
the discussion on the CPC application for Deacon's Folly?
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, Byron.
Let me grab this. So the Real Estate and Open Space Committee, as well as the Affordable Housing Trust, have put together a application, a CPC application to purchase 0 Deacon's Folly. I think it's 0 Deacon's Folly. It's 6.65 acres, and most of us visited it today. I took them out to see it. So Elaine Shevlin is the chairwoman of Real Estate and Open Space, so that's who, her husband. Her husband, Joe.
See you all.
Come on up, Elaine.
Yeah.
No, you can come up if you want.
Nice chairs over
So they're
here.
asking the commission's
Support.
support for the application to the Community Preservation Committee. The amount requested is $1 million. And, do I have the right?
No, I think it was
1.2, it got
1.2.
revised, I'm sorry. Did get revised. I did have the preliminary subdivision plan for you. So a question that came up on the site today was what exactly lots were gonna be open space versus affordable housing? And actually the answer to that is, we don't know exactly yet. What is being envisioned is that the property closest up to Main Street would be for housing, and that the lots that were farther on the south and right against, on the bog would be more for conservation. So I'll pass these out. You can see that this is just a preliminary subdivision plan that they had to go through planning board, and this is what their appraisal would be based out of.
Right. And I believe the appraisal has been done, they just don't have the report yet.
Yes, yep. So we'll be.
I also heard that Mr. Rich was at the meeting,
Yes, he was. Upped his price.
the price.
Yes, we're not concerned with price
I know,
necessarily
I
here,
know.
but, because it's gonna be very dependent on the appraisal for us. But yes, he did up the price. So, This would be a joint application between the Affordable Housing Trust and the Real Estate and Open Space Committee. As far as open space value, I can just speak that it abuts other conservation land, either town or trust land.
Yeah,
It abuts something of kind of cultural significance in that it is an active cranberry bog. It is an actual wetland as well. So it's, I would recommend that you support the concept or behind this of a joint affordable housing / conservation acquisition of this parcel, but it's kind of hard to say straight out because we don't know exactly what's going to be conservation and what's going to be housing
Right.
yet. But I'll open that up to you all.
okay. Paul?
Yeah, we were out there today. And I like the idea of affordable housing, and I like the idea of conservation. I'm just having a hard time understanding what are the buildable lots and what would be the conservation lots, but I like the concept, so.
Yes, and that's why when we were asked by the Board of Selectmen to prioritize things, this was one of our top priorities as far as land acquisition, because it met both things, conservation and housing. So it seems like it was involving a lot of entities in town that would be approve of this and be for it, you know, and not too much backlash.
Carol?
I applaud all your work. I have no comments.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for allowing, well, I know it's a public meeting, but I'm glad to be here tonight. I feel that we need to kind of know each other. Some of these committees, we work on the same projects, we have the same goals in mind, and yet I don't know any of you, you know? So it's kind of nice to see everybody, know who we're referring things to. When Amy brings us feedback, it's nice to know who's behind it and what the thought process. And you're all welcome to attend any of our meetings anytime, just,
Really interesting, Friday mornings.
oh, yes, it is.
I really enjoy them.
Yeah, we're one, yeah.
Huh?
It's usually Friday.
Yes, yeah, well,
That's why I
and we're like the cool kids in town, so you can hang with us. But thank you for your support if you choose to vote so.
Good, Joe?
So, do you have some idea of how many units? I mean, you don't know which lots would be residential versus,
Well, they're working with the Massachusetts Housing Project. People, is that the right project for
Housing
P?
authority?
No, it's a P, it's a housing projects, I think. They only work with multiple units. So I would think if they're looking at the lots up here, lot 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4, maybe not 4, but at least 1, 2, and 3. I mean, we're probably,
Well, and maybe not all of 2 because of
Yeah,
the proximity
because of
to the
here.
wetland.
but at least, you know, the road front,
Yep.
Dickens Road, at least that span of land, I would think they're able to put.
I don't want to
25,
even
30.
speculate.
They don't deal in anything less than quite a few units.
So it's not a single-
So it's no, it's not a single family home, it would be
We weren't
multiple,
sure. I wasn't sure if Bert got
Yeah.
earlier today, but.
no, multiple rental units, which is what we really need is rental,
Yeah,
yeah,
affordable rentals.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess this was submitted just because there had to be a plan submitted. It's just a preliminary. We're not quite
Right.
sure what Mr. Rich will decide to do if this doesn't go through, so we don't know.
Mark?
I'm not comfortable supporting it. I'll tell you why. There's some question in my mind about the detail of what's gonna be done. When I look at the expense and what I understand that the value of the property is, I'm inclined to think that there may be a better application. At this moment, I'm not a believer.
Okay. And, well, I think you're aware of the fact that if it were to progress, the town can only pay what the appraised value is. So Mr. Rich might say it's worth 1.4 million. In fact, may not be, you
We
know.
should know that hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
it came out
yeah,
at.
hopefully. So, yes, again, we're all waiting to hear what the numbers are,
Understood.
okay? But I can understand, I mean, it is a lot of money. And, but again, as far as the housing goes, that's something that the Board of Selectmen and the Affordable Housing Trust have as their main objective right now. Their focus is on
I
improving
don't
housing.
dispute that a bit.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't. But in this particular application, I'm not sure it's the best vehicle.
Okay, great.
Just so you all know, the reason why it's coming forward to you now, before we have all the idea, before everything is flushed out, is because October 1st is the deadline to submit for CPC application. So we're not intentionally just bringing it to, you know, just because it's,
Mhm.
we haven't, there's a deadline. And this application is really just, they're gonna start going through the applications to see which ones are valid,
Right.
have us in for presentations, which will hopefully by that time, it'll be closer to the holidays, have more of the answers to a lot of these things.
Yeah, so you're, you know, whatever your vote is tonight, and if you should agree to support it, it doesn't mean it's automatically gonna happen.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's still a long road.
it's
There's
basically
still
the
a
concept,
process.
like I had mentioned,
Yes.
yeah.
This would not come in front of us, would it, except that it is involved, it's bordering on,
Anything within a 100-foot buffer to a wetland would come in front of us.
Comes in
And
front
there
of
are
us.
wetlands actually across the street from
Yeah.
on Deacon's Folly that may, if they were to develop any of the lots over there, if they were in the 100-foot buffer to those wetlands on the other side of the street, they would also have to come. But those are mostly the southern lots that would hopefully be the ones for protection anyways.
so an approval tonight, would that indicate our final approval of this project?
No.
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 Couldn't.
It's our support of the,
Application
It's
only.
just support of moving the application forward.
That's
That's all it is.
Support of the concept.
And I think the
Yes.
committee has done a lot of work on this, and that they have looked
Oh, we've been
into
working on it for quite a
They've looked
while.
into it deeply.
Yeah.
So, but the proposal is that the town spend the suggested amount of money to acquire all of this property. So the town would, basically, it would be selectmen's control to start with. It would belong to selectmen and then, but in the proposal for $1 million, but you say that's been now changed to 1.2, that's what's gonna go
Well,
forward.
1.2 was the figure that we've been working on all along. It was only last night that the owner of the property
Yeah.
informed everyone that he's raised it to 1.4.
So, but you are asking CPC for the full purchase price effectively, one way or another.
Yes, split
so
between,
50-50.
between two pots, yeah, 600 and 600,000.
So, in the end, given that that went forward and this happened, and some of the lots would have housing on them, and some of the lots would be for conservation, would there then be would the property be divided into two pieces, so there's one
Yeah.
piece that's for conservation, and then would then the Conservation Commission
Take care of custody,
hold the
potentially.
conservation restriction on that? Is that the way this would?
It could evolve in a couple of ways.
Mhm.
It could be, once if the town does acquire this, the town redoes a plan similar to this, showing a configuration of a parcel for housing and the rest for open space. It could be put under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission, or it could be held by selectmen or somebody and have a conservation restriction held by us or the Harwich Conservation Trust potentially. There's a variety of ways. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Elaine, but the configuration that you see with the lots here, if the town were to acquire that, that would probably not stay the same.
Yeah, that would change, I'm sure.
this was purely for planning purposes, so Mr. Rich could get an appraisal.
Mhm.
Right.
I would assume the lots would all be blended all, like you mentioned,
Or one and two,
units
one
or
for
whatever.
housing and
There were
one
no
for
lots per se.
conservation.
This is
Yeah.
where they're building.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
But also, whatever portion of this was residential, had housing on it, then effectively the town would be the landlord for those people. Is that correct or not? I mean,
No,
it's-
I don't believe,
I don't know.
Well,
no. I think it's,
The application
Well,
is
yeah, it's,
housing trust,
yeah, it's the housing trust.
Oh, so.
And then the community development
community development partnership.
partnership, and they are the ones that usually would manage, don't they manage the property? Yeah, they would be the management and they would manage the property.
I guess that was gonna be my question. I need more understanding of the trust and everything else. So is that the town trust buying property and owning the property and then renting it out?
Right now, Affordable Housing Trust does not have this property under their, right?
No, of any
There.
property in the town, from the purpose of the trust, how does it work?
Right. Well, at town meeting last year, certain properties were turned over from the Board of Selectmen to the Affordable Housing Trust. Now, this housing trust has the ability to develop these properties. They can sell these properties,
Not this one, but.
not this one, because this isn't under their
Yeah,
thing. But like Sisson Road, property on Oak Street, Earl Road, yeah, the property, it's under their purview now. They have control over what to do with it.
So the town does not own this property, the trust does?
The trust now has
In
total
our-
control
in
over
our-
that. It's been turned over from the Board of Selectmen and the town to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Not this.
Not this
one.
one.
Not this
No, I'm
one,
not
but
talking-
he's
I'm just
asking in
talking
general
in
how
The
that
other
works.
piece is, if they decide not to use them, I think it has to go back to the Board of Selectmen to decide before, you can't just, if they're not gonna use it for affordable housing purposes, like, they can't just sell it on the open. I don't know, I don't wanna speak, I don't
Well,
wanna
no,
speak
what
out
I'm
of
saying
myself.
is it's separate from the town.
Yeah,
So
it's a separate entity. You
Is
have
that entity paying taxes like any other property?
It's
To
probably
the
a
town.
non-for-profit.
No.
Okay, no, just trying to
So they're
understand.
partnering with the Community Development Partnership, and they're also partnering with Massachusetts Housing Project, or whatever, who will develop plans. They're working on some idea of designs on some of these properties, and they have their own funding. Affordable Housing Trust has funding. They get money from the cell tower funds and from another source.
We've got money
So
for
they have their
CPC.
own, and their money is
And
going
money
to
from
keep,
CPC in the past, yeah.
yeah. So they're have their own funding at some point to develop plans. I mean, you know, engineers have to be hired to evaluate the property, you know, boundaries have to be determined, all that kind of stuff has to be paid for, but they do have the funding to do it. But on a project like this, they do have to go, they are gonna go to, for CPA funds to help with it.
So,
I'm sorry.
well, that's what, this is a request for
Yes,
CPA
Yeah.
funds. But this is not a request from the Affordable Housing Trust, so.
Yes, it is.
yes it is.
It's actually.
It's a co,
It is a
It's a-
request from
it's a
the
joint
Affordable Housing Trust.
Trust,
yes.
So,
yeah.
so then CPC would be giving money to the Affordable Housing Trust to purchase this property,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes.
Even though some of the property, 50% is designated as open space, which is
Whatever it turns out
not
to be.
within the purview of the Affordable Housing Trust.
That's why I'm that conservation is the project manager on this, so, because it would be conservation and housing, it's joint, it's odd, but,
See, and this is all new. It's all new to all of us. This Affordable Housing Trust is a new entity, and we're all learning how it's working and how it's set up. So it's new to everyone.
So, I mean, I'm trying to figure out, if we're gonna say we support this, what is it we're actually saying we support? And I'm not sure. I mean, if someone's gonna make a motion here, what is the motion that's being made? That we support spending this money, the town?
I think you're supporting the potential acquisition of property that will be
This-
used jointly between housing and conservation.
I have one question.
I think you kind of have to keep it broad at this point, even though
Yeah,
it's hard.
I like
Yeah,
that.
it
Yeah.
is hard. It's probably a really stupid question.
Stop, it's never stupid.
There's no
Well-
stupid.
Do the affordable housing entities pay property taxes?
No, that's what I asked earlier.
Huh?
That was the question I asked earlier.
Well,
No, because the town-owned properties don't pay taxes. So why would Affordable Housing Trust?
It's a separate entity.
Yeah,
After-
two questions that I can't under.
Yeah, we
I
don't
can't
really
answer.
know.
I can ask those questions for you.
Yeah.
because
But
I'm
I don't
having a
know
hard
either.
time understanding
I did
that.
ask somebody to be
They're
here
going
from
to be
housing,
working-
but
they're gonna be
I
getting
knew Charlene
rents.
couldn't,
Yeah.
but I asked other people to be
Who,
here.
who did the rent go to? Is it developed by the affordable housing, or is it developed by and maintained by a private entity?
Yes, my understanding, could be wrong, my understanding is that the community development people are the ones that will manage properties that are eventually built. And they will manage, and I
All
don't,
of the rents would go to them.
What?
but that, see,
I think we're
that's
getting-
so
yeah,
far down the road
Right.
that,
And
And you don't
that's
have
not really
to-
our business.
Yeah, you don't, I mean,
We don't have purview.
you're just asking for
I'm
your
just
support.
having-
If
yeah.
you feel like you can't give your support just yet because you don't have some of these questions
Yeah.
answered, it's okay.
yeah, it's fine.
I'm gonna have to do some studying up on affordable housing, but I think it's a fine idea.
Well, we thought it was a worthwhile project
Absolutely.
anyways, for both.
So, is there anybody willing to make a motion?
I make a motion that the Conservation Commission support the application of the Real Estate and Open Space Committee and the Affordable Housing Trust to request money from the CPC for this project. Is that what you're looking for?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
What did I?
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
3-2. The support is,
Thank you.
yep, and we would love updates as you get them.
Sure.
I think the real question is, there's too many questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
that's
what?
the thing.
Actually, it's a learning experience for all of us, because as I said, this is an entirely
I
new,
guess in my
So-
opinion, it's hard to
Yeah.
vote on something I don't
You can
understand
have them.
the answers.
believe me.
So what
We've
I
had
would
millions of
ask,
questions, and we're still waiting for answers.
what I would ask of the commission is, so I was given two. I was given one that says draft but says original. I don't want to have him sign something that says draft even though other people did.
Oh,
But I also have a brand spanking new one that doesn't have draft written all over it. So we just need somebody from the commission to sign off on this. Or I talked to Kathy as well about this, if you're comfortable with me signing on your behalf. Just initialing that it's just support. So it would either be the chair, which would be you tonight.
Tonight.
Um,
In
or-
fact, no, I can do it.
All right, so I'm gonna do that now so I don't forget. I'm gonna have you sign both because I don't know which one Charlene, or which one we're gonna use.
You don't forget.
So where do you want me?
So just initial conservation.
Oh, just initial?
Just initial. And then do it again there, please. I just don't know which one we're gonna use.
a new car, huh?
So I think, should we chat about Cherokee next?
Cherokee Road.
Sure.
That one's a little bit more cut and dry in
Yes.
terms of funding.
Oh, this is you also?
Yes.
That's
We've been
for
busy.
open space. Yes, they have been
We've been
very
busy.
busy. So, This was the one where Kathy, the application's in the process of completely being finished, and that she needs to give me the signature page. So she asked me if you go to support Zero Cherokee moving forward in the process, that I be allowed to sign on your behalf if you vote so.
And then I'm going, we're putting this on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen for Monday
Great.
night, which is the night before it's due. So hopefully we can get their support also and get it into the office here
Yep.
Tuesday morning.
So it is in your Dropbox. I don't know why
It
it's
is?
being difficult for me right now.
Where do you find
Where
it?
is it?
The last one,
It's item O, CPC Act for
Oh,
Cherokee.
okay, down at the bottom, yeah, okay.
Can you look?
Mhm.
Sorry, it's like, so Cherokee is a parcel of land that's approximately the same size as Deacon's Folly. We don't even know an asking price at this point, right? Or do we?
Well, yeah, we do.
Oh.
It was originally put on the market, I think, for $325.
Okay.
And then the owner again came back and raised the price again.
Of course.
You know, people, real estate, you usually start high and negotiate, dudes go up. But that's what's happened.
Yeah, actually, I do have the application here.
So, you know, we've kind of gone with the, I don't know if you went with $350 on there or $325.
I have a few copies if anybody wants them, paper copies that show maps. So this is up in the Hawk's Nest area. Here's a couple copies if you want the application.
It's a beautiful piece of land, and if you look at a map, you can see that this connects Nathan Walker Road,
This is a good map.
comes through, and this property cuts across Nathan's
It's in there.
Walker Road. So if it were to be,
Should be in
and
online
there's
too.
a natural path back there that people have been using, I hear, for decades, because you can come from Spruce Road and 137 and come all the way down through Hawk's Nest, come across through here, and go over almost, I guess, over to the sand pit.
Yep.
And eventually there is a way to go around. It might even connect with Cornelius Pond and the new trail that just opened there. So we're looking at a continuum of space. There's a lot of conservation land there already with the Hawk's Nest and other conservation. There's the pond. It just preserves that whole stretch of property. And but there a lot of activity at the end or near the end of Hawk's Nest Road there with some development going on. This might balance out and protect that area. And there's other little parts of land in that same general area that we've also recommended to the Board of Selectmen to be put under conservation. So we're saving a big chunk of land from Route 6 down to Queen Anne Road and from 137 almost over to 124. So that's a great section of land to preserve and save.
To add to that, it is within Biomap 2 core habitat, which is priority habitat to protect. It has a vernal pool on it, has frontage on, or almost, not quite frontage on Walker's Pond, but is very close. It's in a Zone 2 public water supply contribution area, so very important to protect the water quality. And it's also in the Six Ponds Conservation District.
Yes.
So it kind of screams conservation.
It certainly does.
I mean, it's got everything that you would want to preserve on it. It's going to help protect our water quality. It's priority habitat for things. Again, vernal pool, other resources, and it has the potential to be built. So this would,
Yeah, that piece of property has the potential to be divided into 2 lots. One on either side of Nathan Walker Road, which would in effect cut off the natural path
Yep.
coming through. It would sever that land.
So I would recommend that you, do we have a asking price on this one yet? Or I mean, not from the 200, project amount requested is $250,000.
As opposed to the previous one, we are actually part of the request for this one. We just had to approve the other one because it was bordering
This
on
one,
wetlands.
I thought, we thought it was.
We are an active applicant.
Well, it's not, I would like you to be. However, if you choose not to be, we will take that off.
But
I-
it just seems to be a natural thing to be
This is-
joint
I just
applicants
jumped
on
ahead.
something like this.
I did that.
think
So,
it's worthwhile.
so again, I would recommend that you support the CPC application for $250,000 out of the open space fund for Zero Cherokee.
I mean, I think for the price,
Yeah.
it's certainly worth the bang for the bucks because it is a beautiful, beautiful stretch of
Is
land.
it wise for us to include the price, that dollar figure
No.
in?
You don't have to.
No, no.
No,
Because everything is
it could
negotiable.
change,
Yep.
and we,
Yep.
it might
Again,
end
we're-
up being 260.
Again, we're waiting for the appraisal on that. So, again, that's not carved in stone. That's just what we need to
Okay.
have on there.
Certainly is a lot less expensive than the other property.
It is, but this is a single use where
Right.
that's, you know,
But it has the potential as two building lots, you said.
But not for affordable housing.
yeah, but not for
But not-
affordable
no,
housing,
right.
no.
Yeah.
So, Paula, do you have any?
No, I
further?
don't.
Carolyn?
No.
Yeah,
I support this. I don't have any
I
other
don't
questions.
either.
Mark?
I would support this as well.
Yeah.
Okay, no other questions. So do we have a motion? I guess you're the motion man tonight.
Am I?
Well, I don't know.
I make a motion to support the application and to participate in the application to CPC for funds for the purchase of Zero Cherokee Road.
Second.
Wait, what was that part about participate?
Yeah.
Participate because it's not just us, it's jointly with
Yeah, that you want,
with
so if you
Open
want.
real estate and open space, right? So,
Do we have a second?
Second.
Either or, doesn't matter.
Okay, Mark. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that one, if you're comfortable, I
Yep.
don't have a signature page, I'll sign on your behalf.
okay.
Oh, you're gonna sign that one?
Would you sign and let me have it so I can bring it Tuesday,
As soon
or you
as
want to put
I
it in?
get it, yeah. I think Kathy said she was gonna bring it to me.
Oh, is she? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, yes, we'll get it to you.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure we get it in under the wire.
Yeah, I don't have a page here.
Thank you all very much, and
Okay.
thank you for adjusting your agenda.
No problem.
No problem. Feel free and stay.
Well, you know, it is educational, it's very interesting to hear.
We haven't had many hearings tonight because this is just a work session, so
Yeah,
we at least got some of our small business done.
yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Should we go back to the order?
What was the third one about?
Oh, you want to just do CPC while we're doing this?
Might as well
The
finish
third
this one.
one is a request by me, on your behalf, hopefully. I would like some funding from CPC to help us better maintain our conservation lands. We have a very small pot of money, doesn't go very far. We are in desperate need of things for fencing, different types of fencing to block things off. Yeah, so split rail. Signage, we desperately need new signage in a lot of places, or signage period in some different places. You know, and then I was thinking potentially for funding for a camera or two. We do have one. It's just cumbersome because it's not wireless, so you have to, you know, every couple of days go and take the card out, bring it back to the office,
Oh, okay.
download it. And especially it's really cumbersome when you put it high up in a tree. So, to do it, we had two, one got taken, so, potentially that as well, but mostly things, it could even be for some plantings or whatnot too. But I would just like a little bit of a chunk of money to pay for things like split rail fence or bollards or something to help manage our lands better. Jim had brought it up and I just thought it was a good idea. So I am asking for 10,000. And
Is that enough?
we're gonna start with that, see where we get.
What about the theory of reaching for the stars and then back?
Yeah, you don't start with the minimum.
I just don't, if it gets too much higher, they're gonna ask me more for a budget. And I don't really have a budget yet, because I don't have a
Okay.
clear,
So
I have
you
an
don't-
idea,
okay.
I have an idea of where these things need to happen, but not how
But you don't have a
much.
specific plan at this point.
Exactly, and I just needed to get this in, I figured I would shoot for it, so.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'd love to see you go for 20.
Whatever you want.
$10,000 doesn't go very far. And then look around, go buy a car, buy anything.
Yeah,
It's not a lot of money, unfortunately.
How much is the camera?
couple hundred.
That's it?
But if you want a wireless
Wireless
camera,
service, yeah.
you have to
Yeah,
pay
you
for
have-
service,
yeah,
right?
right.
And
Well, you were also talking about gates and stuff in a lot of these places too, right?
No, I didn't even think about the gates, I was thinking mostly about fences, but gates get
Well,
even more expensive.
right.
Fencing, gates, there's trails that need to be dealt with. I mean, there's a lot of places where there's erosion. There's ample places to utilize it. If we had a
And on our
resource,
site, when
we could
were
certainly
out on
find the
sites,
application that would be worthy.
I'll bump it up, the worst they can do is decrease it or something.
Right.
I think the application is worthy, I think all the projects are worthy. I think we have to be a little careful not to put what should be routine work that should be in our budget.
Which I have,
Okay,
I have like,
I
I have $4,000.
Which is
Yeah,
nothing.
That's
See, I
it.
think you need
How much?
more in that budget.
4,000.
Seriously?
Oh, that's up from 2,500, oh, 1,500 a couple of years
Well, I
ago.
think that needs to be
So in
discussed.
writing this up,
Well, this was in approach to start getting to that, because I'm not gonna be able to, right now, the message in the town is to level fund.
Right.
Period. If not, try to cut as much as you can. So
Okay.
there's no room for me to be, that I won't get more
so
money at
this
this
has
point.
to look like, these are one-time deals that we need now.
Well, it's not just
No,
that,
wait a
but we're
minute, no,
adding,
that's not true, because
No.
for CPA funding, there is, and I can't cite chapter and verse, but one of the legitimate uses of funding is for maintenance of
And that's
open
actually the
space.
category that I'm,
Right, so,
category I'm going
so
for.
this is not,
Okay.
Then that fits perfectly.
and I think, I don't think that has been well tapped in the past.
No, it's
And
usually
so-
for acquisition, and it actually says really specifically in a lot of our plans, the town's done a really great job in acquiring all this land. Now we're tasked with maintaining it.
Yeah, right, so,
So we're finally gonna do that.
off the top of your head, how much conservation land are we responsible acreage-wise,
1,000
roughly?
acres,
Pardon?
1,000.
1,000 acres.
Just town conservation land, not selectmen land, not
Right.
trust land, not state land,
Right,
1,000 acres,
with the
It's just under, it's like
potential of
958.
additional land is,
potentially coming forward. We've added 63 acres since I looked at this in the past 10 years. We did our big acquisitions in the
just got
80s.
that in the application.
oh, okay.
I remember being out on site and you saying, well, we really should have a gate here. and
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about it.
Gates
about
is having
that,
money, yeah.
Other
Yeah, so as
places.
long as it's clear in this,
Right.
in there.
I'll put 20 in if you want me to.
No, I'm just saying,
I think you should put 20 in, I agree with Mark. There's no reason to be woefully underfunded, and furthermore, you've got 3 years to spend the money, so if. for
That's true,
some-
I forget that
If for
sometimes.
some reason, you just can't figure out how to spend $20,000 in a year.
But
I'm gonna ask you
no,
anyways.
but that's not the real approach. Again, my background is what are the specifics, and again, you don't have the plan, but we know in general things that we need. Gates,
So is, do you,
signage, fencing, cameras, I mean, in a broad
Plantings.
background, we know
Mhm.
what we need, and 20,000 is not a lot of money. Like Mark says, for those kinds of things.
Well, if you look at the amount of properties there are, and specifically if you would divide that up over four areas,
Right.
that's only $5,000 a piece.
Yeah.
$5,000 doesn't go very
Gonna
far.
get you very far.
I mean,
I already
really-
wrote, I already scratched out the 10 or 20.
Good,
Okay.
good.
And then quietly let them know that you would take less.
No, I'm not gonna
No.
tell that.
No,
unless-
no,
No.
no, because then they'll give you less.
It's not public meeting.
Okay.
No, I mean, in,
We'll see what they're, I mean, obviously it's a competitive process with other applicants,
Mhm.
and they'll make a decision about how they can allocate, so.
But we really need it.
We do need it.
Mhm. I'll fight for it, I'll argue for it.
we've had all kinds of discussions about the maintenance factors of all the property.
Security.
I have to go in front of CPC and beg my case, our case, I hope some of you or all of you can come.
Yes. When is that? October 1st?
No, no, that's when the projects are due. This probably won't be until sometime in November that they start interviewing, maybe,
Okay.
interviewing.
Yeah, it'll be a few months, over a few months when the
You gotta
different
review.
proposals.
Yeah,
We will start reviewing them
October.
October 2nd.
Yeah, I
I
know,
mean, individually we will, but
right,
the hearings, no.
okay. So I need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to support the CPC application from the Conservation Administrator for funding for materials to assist with open space preservation.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Pass this over to Stan, if you can initial Stan and get that back to me. Thank you all. Okay, so now going back
So
to,
now we're back to orders of conditions.
yeah, we'll go to the orders.
Okay, we have an order of condition for Jamie Klein, 61 Bells Neck Road.
Yeah, let me just put this away. Okay, you got the revised plans in. That's what was in your Dropbox.
Oh, yeah.
I did put in there that we got the conservation restriction prepared and approved, accepted by a conservation entity prior to construction of the dwelling. That is something we need to do.
I would move to approve the order of conditions for file number SC 322377.
The second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please sign. And Mark, if you hold on to them till the end, that'd be great.
Okay, and then we have condition for the Town of Harwich Department of Highways and Maintenance, townwide road maintenance activities.
Oh, actually, I have one question about this, and all of them is the expiration date is September 18th. Shouldn't it be September 25th at this point?
Oh, we'll change expiration date, sorry. It's because they were prepared for last
Yeah,
meeting.
right.
Yes, you're correct.
Does not work.
special condition number 6 mentioned the dock.
The dock, I was just questioning.
Oh, did I, sometimes I delete and cut and paste.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering that.
Yep, so that shouldn't be on there.
That
Number
whole
6
thing.
is gone.
Okay, the whole thing, right?
Yep, sorry about that.
I know number 4 was a conversation, but you know, that's simply not possible.
You know, it's gonna be
Really?
seen.
But it's still worth demanding.
Clean loan,
Clean
Well,
loan?
say clean loan.
you just don't want them taking it from
Takes a fragment,
I know.
a fragment of a root. And it could be any number of types of plants. It's just not a realistic thought. I mean, it's not something you can control.
I know that.
I know the intent can be to make it, and I think the sincerity of the conversation was real from both sides,
Yeah,
but to,
practicality is tough with that.
yeah, I mean, in the real world, it can't happen. So, I mean, if you want to leave it there, personally, I'd strike it, just because it's totally unrealistic.
But don't you want language in there to discourage the use of loam that is known to be from sources that would be full of weed seed?
That, you can't guarantee that though, John. It's just, you know, I mean, I think the intent of keeping things clean and doing a good job is there with the personnel and the gentleman that was here to speak on behalf of the DPW. But
Well,
to have that in black and white, it's just not a possibility.
his statement was they have a big inventory currently. I forget where it came from, but
High school,
High school.
the
of,
tech, that's
of
clean,
good
but
loam, clean loam.
that's only gonna last for a few years.
Right,
Well,
you said about
He also said the
alternative would
quantity
be-
was about 300 yards.
Yeah.
300 yards is not a great deal of material,
No,
and
I
it
was
doesn't.
surprised he said 3 years for that. That was
Right.
it, yeah,
But regardless, I mean,
yeah.
to me,
It's unrealistic.
it's an unrealistic item, so.
You could also say something like, I don't like being ambiguous, but like, best efforts should be made to use loam free of
That's fine.
something, if you want me to
That-
say
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
That
that's
sounds good.
basically a pat on the back
Is
to
everybody
support.
okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
But I agree with you, if it's unrealistic, why put it in there?
You just,
Yeah.
A
Okay.
reminder.
Yeah, it's
Well, no, but-
really meant to be a reminder, but I'll put the best effort is to be made
Yeah.
to use loam that is free of
Mhm.
invasives.
So is
Can I
that
have a
gonna,
question?
Yeah.
Can I ask, do I have to wait for a motion?
No,
Oh, okay. If they want to use a loan from the dump site, is that something that they'd have to do because of costs?
maybe.
And can that loan be sifted before it's used? Or is that ridiculous?
screening,
Screening.
what we're talking about is a minute fragment. I mean, all it takes is a little piece of root to be left over from a legume.
Bittersweet for
It may lay there for 2 years before you see anything,
Right,
and then all of a sudden you go by it one day and realize you've got a brand new forest.
yeah,
So,
I think even screening
no,
not even that.
won't.
no,
But
it's
this
just not gonna
only
happen.
applies anyway within 100-foot, in any 100-foot buffer zone. So it's
Yeah.
not like we're telling them they can't ever
Use that.
anywhere
Anywhere
use
in town,
stuff.
right.
It's just
We don't have
in
the
places we
jurisdiction.
have
Yeah.
jurisdiction over, so.
In short, we're saying exercise caution.
Right, exactly.
Mhm. Okay.
so we need a motion.
I would move to accept file number SC 322392 with the appropriate amendment to the wording of special condition number 4 and the removal of condition number 6.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Please sign.
Okay, order of condition for Ellen Harbor Yacht Club.
That's 371 Lower County.
371, yep. How do you all feel about it? How do you all feel about them?
There's a lot here. Think it's good?
I think it's good. It's what I remember us discussing.
Well, that's good.
The only question on 9 about the irrigation system, I know we kind of left it open, I thought, too, as to when they
Yeah, we didn't.
felt they needed it, and then they'll just shut it off at that point. I mean, it says 2 to 3 growing seasons.
Yeah,
Right, but I mean, they were also very clear about the time element it was gonna take to transition the seeding, which was multiple years.
well, we had said existing irrigation shall remain. We never
Right.
told them they had to fully take it out.
Right.
Just
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so that's number 9, as long as they don't expand upon it. So they can have their Cape Cod lawn as they transition, but it can be irrigated.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I would move to
Oh,
accept-
okay, I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
No, it was the way I was reading that, okay. The 2 to 3 years is regarding the drip system.
I would move to accept 322390 as written.
A second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
And 1 abstention. Okay, we have Margaret Sharon, 168 John Joseph Road, site work, dock and mitigation plantings.
This one was difficult to separate everything out, so I hope I did it okay.
Number 6, I'm not sure why, where is there, the first word.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. Just the existing bridge patio.
The way this is written, Amy, regarding the shed, if it has to be replaced, is that something that would go forward? Does that mean they would not have to reapply regarding that matter?
No, I should say it needs to be approved by the Conservation Commission or its agent.
And number 7, I'm reading this, I'm not sure whether the native stone and shell and untreated timbers are a path to the water, or whether it is
Along the path to the water.
along the path.
It's right next to it.
With the
But
the dog to be,
it sounds to me like it might be interpreted as could be installed to be the path to the water, as opposed to an aside.
I can say next to instead of along.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
and that's where the new dock, that's the new area for the dock. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it gets approved.
Do we need to say that it's for dock storage?
Honestly, doesn't.
So you will need to update the deadline for the dock permit as well. Because it says March 18th.
Yeah. 25th.
Okay. Number 15 in this is general conditions. Failure to comply with all the conditions of this order shall result in enforcement action by the Harwich Conservation Commission, which may include fines not to exceed $300 per day per violation.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't give us any leeway to fine the contractor, if we choose to. And that's an area that we're just now working into.
I'd have to see how we would change that. Those general conditions, I think, are something that are more,
Yeah.
somehow we got those set.
Well, in my mind, they're separate violations. The contractor's violation and the owner's
There
violation.
you go.
You can let them fight it.
I think that's,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay. Have a motion?
I move to accept the order of conditions for 168 John Joseph Road.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please sign. Certificate of compliance request. So, it didn't go completely as planned. However, given the circumstances in the resource area, I don't think it's a huge deal. So the wall was constructed, instead of the top of the wall being at a 45-degree angle or essentially flush with the slope, they went straight up with it. According to the as-built site plan versus the approved plan, even though one is vertical and one was supposed to be flush with the bank, it still only was elevated 1.5 feet, which was what we allowed. So it looks, I think, a little more stark because it is vertical at that top. But if this was in a area that was subject to wave action, like waves were gonna hit this as a revetment, then that straight up would be a problem. it would reflect off of it. But because this is a tidal situation really where you have the rise and fall of the tides, and this is above, it's nowhere near the mean high water line, it's well above, I didn't see it as a particularly bad thing. As harmful environmentally, that it would, instead of being along with the grade, that it was straight up. So they did the plantings. One thing I am concerned about is, and I can't prove it, because this was only done, it still looks like it's being chemically treated out there. However, I haven't seen any granules, I haven't seen evidence of it, but it is still just looks very manicured. Has only been about a year, so maybe that's residual, I don't know. But it's something I wanted to put in this, if we grant the certificate of compliance, which I am recommending, remind them that they can't be doing this and that they'd be subject to fines if they would continue. I can't prove that they've been doing it, but it looks like. So, I would recommend a certificate of compliance with that condition.
In a case like this, is it a possibility to postpone the certificate for an extended period of time till spring?
You can. For the chemical application,
For the chemical application, and
they're gonna be coming forward very shortly as well, just so you know. It's coming in front of you, so you may, just so what I know. Next meeting, they're doing an entire landscaping plan of native, so that's already coming for you next time. So you may just, maybe you issue this one with that condition tonight, knowing that you got another grab at the apple in next week too. So their next plan is the entire lot. They're removing invasives and doing native plantings.
I'd like to see that before I approve this.
Okay, that's fine. We can put it on next week's agenda too.
No, I'm just laughing because, I mean, obviously they had a plan to do the wall, right? And they didn't. And now they're gonna come up with a major plan, and who says they're gonna do that one correct too? But that's a comment for next week.
It's a different, no, actually it's the same landscape contractor. But the landscaping company was not the company that did the wall. The wall was a marine contractor. So,
Was there an explanation as why they didn't do it with, no?
I caught it when it was almost done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to split hairs, because the end result,
It would have been a big deal if you were in a coastal situation though,
Yeah.
right,
or in a wave action situation.
right, but what was presented is not what was done.
No,
So, I would support tabling this until we review the next plan.
alright. We can do that. We don't need to vote on that or anything, I'm just gonna table it.
Are we doing any other things at this point?
We can do, so I don't have,
Right, we
language
talked about that
and
earlier.
actually for executive session,
We should have Brad there.
well, and I really don't have, other than Chatham Road, I really don't have an update because I'm waiting for council to get back to me on updates for the other two for you. I put it on as a placeholder in case we had it. So we only need to do, so I recommend we don't do an executive session tonight
Correct,
and that we just review, the minutes.
okay.
Oh, and the certificate we're gonna hold, okay. So you should have two sets of minutes, February 6th and February 20th, if you want to do the 6th first. I think he's done a great job and we're trying to slowly catch up. But we got a couple done from like August, I did right away. I actually had a chance to do that, but, so, and we've piecemealed some of the others.
Okay, first sentence, second page. Two pumping stations are in conservation jurisdiction. Thanks.
Showed under public comment. It's not chewed.
Where?
Under public comment.
A study in Vermont, shoot.
Stan Seklo, dash A, study in Vermont.
Showed.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, did they do the treatment?
Yep, just finished. We're gonna be getting we're gonna be getting some reports soon.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, never mind, sorry, it's okay. Oh, no, it's like 6 sentences up on the bottom of the second page too. She believes having them in the BBW through May,
I'm just gonna take that throughout, just say may impact.
yeah. I think that should,
Probably was supposed to be though,
yeah.
but we don't need it anyway. Or may impact,
Mhm.
not to take the wood out too.
Should that be May with a capital letter?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So not having them there through the month of May
No,
would impact
No,
growing
not a
season.
month at all. She believes that having them in the BBW may impact growing season.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it would be through May.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be that way.
That
It was
makes
written
more
right.
sense to me.
Yeah, no, it was correct.
So it's
And
through
May
with
should
a
be,
capital.
yes, you're right.
May,
The
May.
Month of May
okay, so through stays, capital May, and wood
Impact the growing season.
Wood goes.
No,
No, wood stays. She
BBW
believes
through
having
May.
them in the BBW through
Through
May
May.
would impact or could impact growing season. Or would. Which do you want?
which if wood is in there, she probably, whoever
Keep it
said
as
would. If I said would.
We don't see those tracks.
We were just discussing that today.
people aren't prepared to vote on it, to haven't read them, then
Right?
should be reading them before the
I
meeting.
know, I know.
I'm not sure, but I mean, tonight it's not a huge
Right.
deal because it's early, but,
Okay.
I know you're all very busy people, I'm not criticizing. But I also want to make sure, like, you have time to adequately read them,
Right.
so.
Yes.
Well, I'm all set with that one.
Yeah, I'm all set.
Sounds
yeah.
good to me.
Mhm.
Okay, approve that the minutes, make a motion to approve the minutes for February 6th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Visualize, right?
Yes,
I don't know how I got it.
well, I just kind of take over the place around
That's
here,
okay.
so.
So that revetment is dead in the water right now for Red River?
Not dead, well,
Kind of,
It's floundering.
in on hold.
Okay,
yep. What you got? Said. Said instead of stat at the top of page 3.
so it said,
Yuzowski said, that's off, so this we're trying.
Like, Amy, am I gonna need to sign them for you, or like Brad does?
We actually don't
Oh.
necessarily need to sign them, I'll make the changes and submit them.
Mhm.
We always, I don't know if we used to, supposed to do that, but.
So nothing else after this?
Yeah,
Okay.
Amy, I think these are fine. In the future, though, I wonder if the update on violations, since unfortunately we seem to be getting some, where like 3 Skinnicket Road received a $1,200 fine, if it included exactly what the fine was for.
sure.
and they've all been paid, I'm assuming.
Well, they weren't paid at the time of the minutes.
Well, we reduced the 3 Skinnick Road fine to 600.
Yeah, this was, but that was after this
Right.
meeting.
Okay.
So these were all, let's see, let me put the order. I'm gonna wait for one of you to touch base with.
What's up? Okay, make a motion to approve the minutes for February 20th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And no other business, so I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.